Alright, here we are, day number 1, 1952 independent front suspension, install, and drop. So we want to bring this baby down a little bit more. So the first thing we've got right here is about 10 1/4 inches. Our running boards are sitting at about 8 1/2, and here we're looking at about 9. When we're taking the hood hinges off, what we're going to do is we're going to take this one bolt off. We're going to loosen this bolt because this is slotted on most, and when I pull the hood off, it'll come off. And we're going to unbolt it from the inside, not right here. It's a little more difficult if you take them off right there. You can strip these bolts and such. But if you take these off right here, the hood will still rest on there, and then you can lift it all off in one shot, generally. Okay, so when you disconnect your battery cables, you always do your negative first, because if you do this and you hit the metal, no big deal. But if you hit your positive to the metal, you'll get a bunch of arcing out. So we're going to disconnect our negative first. Alright, so now what we're going to do is start taking all this kind of stuff here apart. First thing you're going to want to do is drain your coolant, because you're going to have to get that out of there before you can pull the engine and all that kind of stuff, your heater hoses and such. So we'll get a bucket under there and start draining that puppy. Okay, our wiring on this one's well, tad confused, I guess. So you're going to want to keep everything in line. You either want to get some tape and mark off anything that you disconnect and where it goes, or get your little video camera out like this and map out where everything went and slowly disconnect everything. We got a yellow to our horn here, braces over to our other horn there. Our coil wire is black, and let's see, power to the thing here is black, coming off the blue of the poor masking job. And down below, just too tough to tell what where goes. Now, when you have wires like this, when you cut them, you don't want to cut them all in the same place if you're going to be using the same wire, because then you'll have to do all of your repairs right here and you'll have a big lump in your coil here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut one, space it out evenly, and this way you won't get a big bunch. So cut one here, cut one here, cut one down here, cut one down here, and then it'll be easier to see which wires go to which. You can see we got 3 black wires right here, so if they were all cut in the same place, you would know what went where. So we'll cut them at different sections, and then we'll know what goes where just by the distance that they're cut. Your front fender supports, if they're in the right place before you take it apart, don't loosen it up right here. Just unbolt from here, here, and here. It's easier if you do these first generally, because if you take it out of that and you got tension on this, then it'll kind of strip the bolts at the end over there. So you take this baby off first, then you take that end off there. But don't mess with that. So we want to be sure that we keep this left side on the left side, so you simply mark it right side or left side. Alright, so this truck's obviously been converted to a 350 engine in the past. It's got an automatic transmission, and we've got automatic transmission lines down there that we're going to go ahead and disconnect now too. Of course, they're going to leak when you do that, so get a pan under there. And while it's leaking, you can just keep taking apart more stuff. So we've got all our things detached from our front end here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take apart our fenders over here and over here. We'll get a jack underneath, jack it up some, get some supports underneath, and then we'll start unbolting. When I'm taking the front end apart, I like to start on the passenger side because the bolts are easily exposed right there. Then we'll go ahead and jack up the truck and take off the rest of the bolts. Okay, one of the things you want to keep in mind when you're jacking up your truck and working on it is that every single year a lot of people die and or are hurt when they're doing this stuff. So it's kind of a silly statistic to be in. So what I like to do is jack the baby up, get my jacks underneath, slowly lower it back down onto the jacks. But still have my original jack underneath, so I gotta get a 2-for-1. Now the bolts inside the fender typically are rusted and come off difficult. Sometimes you can unbolt them, sometimes you just gotta cut the babies off. When you're cutting them off, you want to go between the head of the bolt and the washer. You don't want to go past the washer, you don't want to cut into the metal of your truck, you just want to cut the head off the bolt. So in between the head of the bolt and the washer, so that the washer gives you a little bit of room between your sheet metal there. So I'm going to cut these babies off because I'm getting tired of screwing with them. Well, with your front end off, you can see how the past, this was kind of hokey. You know, what they do is they take the gearbox here and they actually shim it over so that it jams all the way over to make extra room for the headers, but there still isn't enough room, so they hammer them down and do all kinds of weird things. The motor mounts are pretty hacky sack, and we got some old ugly welding here. They cut out right here and here. So next we'll pull our engine and tranny out, and then we'll start working on some of that ugly frame stuff. Okay, so after you're sure you've got everything, transmission kickdown lines, exhaust pipes cut, etc., transmission cooler lines, etc., 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 you're ready to pull out your engine and tranny. Your carburetor, a nice one like this especially, can get jacked up when you're pulling at the engine and the chains, etc. So it's a good idea to pull that baby a lot of times. Your distributor sometimes too. I'll see how I feel about that. When you take your carburetor off, make sure you stick something in these holes, or something will fall down in there and jack your engine all up. Stuff it down good and tight. And there you have it, folks. Taken out in about 4 hours, 4.5 hours. Now we'll clean this up and get that steering column out of there too. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is take the steering column off. This here just pops on. We've got a 3/4 inch bolt right here. Pull your little horn button out. And now we'll go get our steering wheel puller kit out of the car and pop that puppy out of there. Okay, get your steering column puller set up. You put your flat side here. I like to use 2 washers. Bolt these down as far as you can without having to torque it real hard. Then go ahead and bring this piece out. There we go. Pops off nice and easy. The truck's been sitting for a long time. Just make sure you use a lot of WD-40 on that when you first get it and let it soak up. Alright, there's your steering column. Now put this bolt back on. Otherwise you can lose this spring, and sometimes when things are just being moved around, the thread's a bit damaged. So you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now we'll take the rest of this stuff off and take our bottom brace off here, unbolt it from the frame, and we can slide the whole thing out. Now your old style tie rod ends are kind of funny. There's a cotter pin right here. That you take off.